So this little practice is not going to make you live for 100 years. And it's not going to solve all your problems. But what it is containing a few little bits and bobs that I think are nice, either easy little take-homes or fun reminders of some things that you might want to keep in your life. So we're going to start with just a little flowy warm-up, which we'll have done before, which is just to swing around the arms. So an important thing is, as always, movement, movement, movement. Movement that involves pleasure, movement that is easy, and movement that has variety. So here we're just going for, I think, easy. We're going for pleasurable. We're going for a part of variety. And here we're moving the heart tissue. And you might find that you're even working on your balance a little bit. And if you try and close your eyes, you might find that that balance is challenged a little bit more. And you get to have to work on your proprioception, your awareness of where you are in space without your eyes. It's just challenging your senses a bit more, keeping them a little more vibrant. And then come back to center. This one wouldn't really be much challenged with the eyes closed, so you can do it eyes closed or open, but we're swinging up and down to the sides. And just think about maybe the loveliness of the swish of the arms through the air. How pleasant that is. Change it if you've got any aches and pains that are being made to feel worse because of this movement. And then come back to neutral, and we'll do the third thing that I always do with this little sequence, which is just bouncing up and down through the knees and letting the arms swing forward and back. And sometimes I leave it at that, but because we're working on healthy aging, maybe avoidance of some of the spooky things that can occur, we're going to make this more of a brain challenge by trying to let the arms continue in their circle so they cross over at the top and go full circle in opposite directions. And some of you will now be swimming, and some of you will be doing forward crawl, some of you will be doing back crawl. So we're trying to avoid this, which is swimming forward, or this, which is swinging back, swimming back. They're going opposite directions, one forward, one back. I can see a little frustration there. So here's a good way of trying to find it. Two good ways. One is to start by using your non-dominant arm, the one you don't write with, or the one that you find less easy to control, and swing that the way that's easiest for it, forward or back. Which way does it find easier? And then without stopping, do the other one the opposite way. So you might need to think, okay, my left arm is going backwards, so my right arm is going to go forwards. Use words. Yep, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Ah! The brain cogs. And then the other way, which was the way I learned it when I learned it 21 years ago, 23, 33, 42. No, 31 years ago when I was 23. Ah! Is that right? Oh my God, it is. Was that you kept swinging forwards and back, and you just tried to meet up at the top in the middle. And once you'd met at the top in the middle, you just tried to sort of cheat yourself by going forwards or by continuing the trajectory. I find the bouncing in the knees really helps me. It might not help you. Think of the crossover at the top over your head, that the arms have to be going different ways as they meet at the top. And I will remind you, if it's hard for you, it's working for you. If it's easy for you, it is not helping your brain. So if you are frustrated, know that you are getting more juice for your brain than I am, because I'm already able to do that and have been doing it for 31 years, so it's useless to me. Now that we're all warmed up, could you, if you have socks on and you're not too cold, please take them off. If you're too cold, you can kind of work with your socks as your sensory kind of point of focus. But if at all possible, bare feet. And again, if at all possible, close your eyes. You're very welcome to stand by a wall for this, because it doesn't matter if you're holding something the entire time. And I'd just like you to notice the soles of your feet and what they can feel. The eyes closed idea is just to take in less information from your eyes, so that you're more likely to be noticing your touch. So you could notice maybe harder and softer bits of your feet where you feel most pressure against the floor. Maybe you could notice where, and we're predominantly working on the soles of our feet, where do you feel any difference of temperature? That might be hard, but give it a go. And then how much can you feel the texture of what you're standing on? Can you feel if it's fibrous, if it's rough, if it's smooth, if it's thick or thin, how much cushioning? As much information as you can take in from the surfaces of the soles of your feet. And then could you step to somewhere that has a different surface? So maybe you're going off your mat onto a rug, or off a rug onto a hard floor, or whatever it is, something that has different texture, and spend some time there. And because your feet aren't moving just yet, you might have to work really hard to feel a difference. Depends on, of course, the surface. And then wherever you are, could you just use your toes to kind of stroke what you're standing on? As if you're using your toes to try and figure out what you're standing on. You know the way in Halloween, there's this game they do where they cover like a box with a cloth, and you have to put your hand in without seeing and determine through touch what you're feeling, something in the box. So imagine you're using your toes to determine what you're standing on. And once you determine what it is, can you use your moving touch to determine maybe the textures, the temperatures? You can like shift the foot around, like pivot it to feel different bits. And you could even imagine that through your feet you could determine the color. Of course you can't, but imagine you're trying to feel the color. And then come back to neutral. And you're welcome to do this next one on our mat or where you are already. We're going to lift all our toes. Keep the balls of your feet on the floor and lift all your toenails up towards your nose. And then try and just put down your big toes and lift them up. And then try and put down just your little toes. Feel free to hold a wall if you need to and lift them up. And then try and put down your big toes and your little toes. And then lift them up. And then try and put down each toe in succession, starting with the big toe. There'll be real difficulty with the middle three because they're kind of webbed, almost fused a little bit, and then to the little toe. And then try and pick them up one at a time from the big toe, picking up first, second, third, fourth, and little. And then try and put them down from the little toe first, one at a time. And then when they're down again, try and imagine that you've got or you could even put a little scarf or a light rug, or no, not a rug really, like I could use my pashmina, or if you had a little scarf, or just imagine that you have something, a towel even, and put it under one foot and try and scrunch it up with your toes. Like you're trying to gather it up under your instep. And this is not just to gather it up, and it's not just for sensory, it's actually to exercise the muscles of your feet. And you can do it without fabric or with fabric. And see if you can do it sometimes without looking at it. There's a tendency naturally to want to look down, so that you're also engaging in sensory awareness as well as just the mechanical motion. And if you haven't already done so, do the other foot. You might have been doing 2 at a time. Keep doing that while I have a drink for my hot flush. And then kick that out of the way so it's not a trip hazard. And come to the back of your mat. And stand on the outer edges of your feet with your feet parallel. So you're lifting up the inner edges. And just trot up and down the mat. And if you feel secure, either holding a wall or not, you could do this with your eyes closed. And just think about the edges of your feet. Think about where you are in space. And think about even a little bit of percussion for your bones if you want to add that little trotting so that there's a bit of thump, thump, thump. So there's lots of layers here, working on the feet, working on the joints, working on the bones, and working on the balance. Maybe inner edges now, probably easier in terms of balance. Stay on the mat. So you might find that with the eyes closed that you're wandering, but try and really see, can you intend to stay, whoops, I walked into the wall, the center line of the mat, or you could try and go at the edge of the mat so that you can feel the edge of the mat to stay on a line. And then toes in, outer edges. So you're going toes knocking in and you're walking up and down on the outer edges, eyes closed or open, which is the problem with a small space. I couldn't feel the end of my mat, which is why I nearly walked into the wall. I'll just keep my hands out. And then toes in, inner edges. If you feel sick anytime doing balancing poses or vestibular challenges, with the eyes closed, open them again. If you feel nauseous, you may need to also stop when you're doing vestibular challenges or any nervous system stressing challenges. Toes out, outer edges, you're probably feeling quite a lot of muscularity in the legs. Don't forget you can trot if you like for that bone percussion, bit of banging. And then finally, inner edges, probably your heart rate is getting up, which is also good for us as the years go by. And then pause and notice your feet. Really, really pour all your attention into your feet, your feet, your feet, your feet, your feet. And while you notice them, just think about things you could do for your feet during the day, like watching TV. You could roll your foot around on a spiky ball, or both feet. You could just massage your feet or mobilize them, just thinking about staying connected. And for those of us who are developing bunions, bunions themselves are not a problem, but what they can cause is the toes to get all gathered in under one another. And when we have toes gathered in under one another, we get much worse balance. So if you have or are developing bunions, toe separators are a great idea just to stop them drifting in. They won't stop the bunion, but they'll stop the toes drifting in. They can be tricky, a little uncomfortable until you get used to them, but great to keep the toes separate for as long as we can. Okay, so we are going to take our weight to the right and really feel your right foot. And try not to stick your hip out to the side, but keep it drawn in and under. And coming to your version of a tree pose, it could be ankle, heel on the ankle, foot on the inner calf, or foot on the inner thigh. And make sure not to put your foot on your inner knee. You don't want to put pressure on the joint. Push your thigh into your foot or your foot into your your foot into your thigh to stop the foot slipping. And we're going to take the hands wherever we want them. Could be prayer position or above the head or on your hips or on your belly, whatever you like. And then I'd like you to deliberately add little movements into your standing foot, as if the floor is wobbling under you or you're standing on jelly. Just try not to get too cozy with what you can do and add little edginesses to make things a little harder. Still deep breathing though, which I didn't mention at all up until now. Even though it's getting harder, we're still staying at the point where we're able to breathe deeply. And changing sides, take your time. Heel to ankle, foot to calf, foot to thigh. Draw that left hip in and under, hands wherever you want them. And this little extra challenge today is about wobbling the foot as if you're standing on jelly. Or as if you're standing on a hot surface and you're just trying to give little bits of your foot a break from the heat. So you're trying to shift the weight. Yeah, great, lovely. Think of a little core tone, abdominal tone. And choose when you need to release. And take your arms down and take a little mini break. Your homework or your your takeaway possibilities here in daily life might be thing we often talk about, which is brush your teeth while standing on one leg. Just little things to challenge yourself during your days. Balancing poses while you watch the kettle boil. I mean, I know there's 100 things we want to do while we're watching kettles boil, but just think of peppering balance challenges through your days. The research shows that 17 minutes of balance practices per day is what we need to improve balance, out in the real world. So that's quite a lot. But there are balance challenges through our days anyway, and you can just amp things up. So for instance, we're going to do a little balance challenge. Actually, no, I'm going to do a cognitive challenge, then a balance challenge, then a cognitive challenge. So the cognitive challenge is that I'm going to teach you a series of 4 yoga poses in a row on each side. Then we're going to do something completely different, and then I'm going to expect you to do the same poses on each side again without my help. So that is going to mean that right now, while you do these postures, you're going to be thinking much more. You're going to be engaging your brain much more than if you didn't know that I was going to get you to do them without me helping you in a minute. So we are going to start at the top of our mat. You've got 2 chances to remember them. So keep your brain with you. We are going to step the left foot back and bend the right knee, taking the arms up into warrior 1. Soften your shoulders. Add some little strength efforts here by pressing your feet into the floor. So not only are you just doing your classic warrior 1, you're also thinking of some isometric contraction, pressing the feet into the floor and drawing your muscle into the bone and lifting through the pelvic floor and relaxing your jaw and breathing deeply. Maybe take 3 or 4 breaths here, maybe 2, maybe 6. And then when you're ready, next inhale takes you into warrior 3. stepping the left foot off the floor. You may only come this far into a diagonal, or you may come all the way down to horizontal. If there's a wall there, you might use it with your hands. Drop the left hip in line with the right and add some isometric contraction by imagining you're pushing the wall away from you with your left foot, pushing the floor away from you with your right foot, micro bend the right knee. If your arms and shoulders are tired, let your arms dangle or rest them behind your back. Take 2 or 3 more breaths, lifting through the pelvic floor and the lower abdomen gently. Work through the legs. Don't mind the wobbles. And then on your next inhale, step your left foot back behind you again. Turn slightly to the left, straighten both legs, reach long with the right leg, down with the right hand, up with the left into triangle pose. If your left shoulder is uncomfortable, bring your left hand to your hip, turn your sternum, micro bend the right knee, press your feet into the floor again with a little isometric contraction going. Little lift of the pelvic floor, Mula Bandha, little drawing in of the lower abdomen, Uddiyana Bandha. Maybe looking up to the top hand if it's floating, maybe looking up where the top hand would be if it was floating, if you aren't using the arm. Don't lean too heavily on your right hand. 3 more breaths. And then, when you're ready, inhale, press through your feet to come up, bend the right knee, take the right arm up to the ceiling for that backwards warrior 2. I think they have a name for it. It's fairly new yoga pose. It's got some fancy name, goddess or something. Reaching up through the armpit. So this is more of a nice yummy stretch than the strengthening and balancing we've been doing before. 2 more breaths. Don't overlift the face so that you're not hurting your neck. And then step to the top of the mat. So we'll do all that again on the other leg. And this is your opportunity to see if you can preempt what I'm going to say so that you can challenge your brain again to try and see what it's remembered. But I will be guiding you through all of them. So take a moment to consider whether you know what comes first. And what it is stepping the right foot back, bending the left knee and coming into warrior 1 with your arms up, or you can leave them on your hip depending on what you need. Add a bit of strength here. Soften the shoulders down, press the feet into the floor, lift through the pelvic floor and lower abdomen. If you want to challenge your balance, you could close your eyes, or you might find that you just want to enjoy the pressing down of the feet. 3 more breaths, maybe fewer, maybe more. And then think if you can remember what the next pose is. And it's inhaling into warrior 3, which could be here on a diagonal or could be anywhere between that diagonal and fully horizontal. Right hip in line with left hip, micro bend the standing knee, push the wall away from you with your floating leg, push the floor away from you with your foot. If your arms don't like being elevated, let them dangle or rest them behind your back. Pelvic floor, lower abdomen with a 3 out of 10 tone. 2 more breaths. See if you can remember what the third pose was, which is stepping the right foot back, straight left leg, reaching along and down into Trikonasana, but micro bend the left knee, soften the shoulders from the ears, keep your feet pressed into the floor. Right hand does not need to float, but it can if it likes. Turn the sternum to the right, let the right hip roll slightly forward. Looking up if you like, press the feet into the floor. 3 more breaths or fewer. Think if you can remember what the last pose was. And it is that we press into the floor to come up, bend the left knee, bring the right hand down, the left arm up. And breathe. Try not to drop the head back so that the back of the neck doesn't start to get hot and achy. And when you feel ready, step to the top of the mat. Take a moment in physical rest and try and think back through the 4 poses. And then we're going to really interrupt your brain, do a whole other thing, and then go back to see how you remember those poses. So this next one is a real life movement challenge. Well, it's not really real life, but it's a great one, I think, for balance and for proprioception and for the feet as well, actually. And I think we've done it once before in this movement community, this menopause resource. So we're standing in the middle of the mat, front to back middle, as well as side to side middle. And initially, the right foot is going to stay exactly where it is and never move. And then we'll be swapping sides. So it's a sequence of stepping forward, back, and then side and behind, and side and behind, and side and behind. And it gets quite quick, and it can eventually be done with eyes closed. My rug is a little slippy on the floor, so I may not close my eyes. I might be a bit more ginger than you might get away with being. So hands on the hips or hands dangling. We're going to step the left foot forward, bend the left knee. Step the left foot back, bend the right knee. Left foot forward, bend the left knee. Left foot back, bend the right knee. And do that a few more times. Try and get precision, good balance, and then build up speed. Doesn't have to be super fast. But see if you can get accurate landing and a good functional knee bend so that the knee that's bent is vertically over the heel, whether that's the right knee as the front knee, as the bent knee, or the left knee as the bent knee. And then come back to center. I'm going to turn sideways, but you don't turn sideways. I just want to see what I'm doing. So you're going to be stepping off the side of your mat. So you're going to step out to the left, bend the left knee. And then step the left foot behind, do a little curtsy. And left to the left, bent left knee, and curtsy. And do a few more. And just make sure in the outward step to land that foot wherever makes your left knee feel happiest. So I'm not going to dictate the position of the left foot. I just want your left knee not to hurt. And then we're going to go forwards, left, forwards, curtsy, back, forwards, curtsy, left, curtsy. See if you can go eyes closed, forwards, curtsy, left, forwards. Whoops, very hard that one with the back. For me anyway, I'm crashing into the furniture too. Forwards, back, left, and curtsy. And stop. Oh, my brain. And then staying with the left foot in the middle. This is good for the heart as well. Right foot forward, bend right knee. Right foot back, bend left knee. Right foot forward, back, forward, and back, and forward, and back, and right, curtsy, right, curtsy, and right, and curtsy, and forward, and curtsy, and back, and right, and back, and curtsy, and forwards and back and right and curtsy and forwards and finish. Take a little rest. Maybe close your eyes and lengthen your breath. Notice your heart rate returning to normal. Notice your mood as well. Movement is great for mood, both long-term and immediate. And then I'm not going to do anything, and you're going to do those postures on either side. And the difficult thing about online is that if I was doing this in a studio, you could sneak a peek at each other. So I'll just tell you to start at the top of your mat, and you're doing it on the right side first. And I will, after you begin, help you by reminding you. So the first one was Warrior One. We added a bit of isometric contraction to it. Yeah, wonderful. Second was Warrior Two. And for those of you who are doing the recording, sorry if I'm telling you too soon. Wonderful, yes. Trikonasana then. And then the last one was, yeah, the backward Warrior Two, the Goddess. So some of you went quickly through it, and some of you are still on the same leg. So if you've only done one leg, go ahead and do the other. If you went quickly through it, do it quickly again on both sides so that you're getting that even bit of work. So the first one, don't want to preempt you, was Warrior One. Adding a bit of isometric contraction if that feels helpful for you. Breathing. And then go ahead and do the second one, which was Warrior Two. Couple of breaths there. Don't lock the standing knee. Push the wall away with your foot, the floor away with the other foot. And then the third one was, yep, your Trikonasana. Unlocking the standing knee, turning the chest, softening the shoulders, lifting the bandhas, Mula Bandha, pelvic floor, Uddiyana Bandha, the lower abdomen. And the last one was, as you've got to, the reverse Warrior Two. Well done. Where are my glasses so I can see what I was planning for next? I believe we are going to come down to the floor. So if you could find your way onto your back, please. So we'll just do a small bit of core strength and a small bit of back strength, and then we will come to our Kirtan Kriya and then our lovely rest. So there are so many ways to work on core strength. A way I've recently been really enjoying is using these squidgy balls. Now, I'm sure you don't have a squidgy ball with you because I didn't suggest it, but you can use a yoga brick, or you can use a cushion, or you could use like a really rolled up bundled scarf or blanket. So basically, I want something fairly small held between your ankles. You might find that it needs to be a foldy, uppy cushion. I don't know. We'll see how you go with that big flat one. Yeah, even like a sweatshirt bundled up. So I'm going to not use the ball so that I'm not being fancy. So what happens is when you hold the thing between the ankles, if you try taking your feet off the floor, you should find that it's just creating the slightest bit of not the pressure that you need to hold the thing without squashing it means that it's more refined. There's sort of subtleties in it. Whereas when it's like let's say a block might be a little easier to hold, there's less wobble, but the ball, if you do have it, wobbles like crazy and you're having to do all these little micro movements to stop it, your legs wobbling up and down around the ball. So if you end up having a ball at some point in your life, you can play with that. What we're going to do is keep that between the ankles. Set the pelvis like I would have taught you many times when we do core work, where there's a tiny gap between the lower back and the floor and you're on the back of your pelvis. And you don't want to press your lower back in the floor. You want your pelvis to remain absolutely parallel, the front of it parallel to the ceiling, and absolutely still as you grip whatever it is you have between your ankles / lower shins and lift your 2 feet off to the floor to tabletop, which means that your shins are parallel to the ceiling and your thighs are vertical. And it may be that you don't do anything with your legs, you just hold them there. As we bring the arms overhead, this may be enough for you. Or you might inhale and bring the arms to the floor above your head, which makes things a bit heavier, the legs a bit heavier, and then exhale them up. And if that was okay for you, you might also straighten the legs on a diagonal as the arms come overhead, and exhale, bring them back to their beginning place. And we'll do 4 more. You could just do the legs and not the arms, or just do the arms and not the legs, or get rid of the thing you're holding and do one leg at a time. Use your exhale for the area that, or the moment in the movement that you find most difficult, because that will naturally engage your pelvic floor and abdominal muscles. Keep breathing. If it hurts your lower back, do less. You could do the legs higher, for example, straight up. And after those 4, rest your knees over your tummy or your feet on the floor, whatever you see fit. And if we had lots of time, I'd do maybe 2 more rounds of 8 times each. But we're just going to do 1 more round of 4. If you have time, you could pause the video if you're watching a recording and go ahead and do another 16 with a break in between. So for now, we're going to come back to tabletop. Shins parallel to the ceiling, thighs vertical, arms vertical. And we're going to inhale long, both sets of limbs, or just one, and exhale together, or exhale to bent again and vertical arms. And you can go higher in the legs if it's too much, or lower in the legs if it's too little. Closer to the floor will be harder. You could also do this holding light weights in your hands another time. You don't want the belly to dome up, especially not sense a sort of pointiness in the navel. You might not know that unless you put a hand on your navel. Exhale for the bit that's hardest, which might be both movements, in which case you take a quick inhale when you're at the top and you exhale to go out, quick inhale, and exhale to come back. Take a rest, take the ball or whatever it is out, soles of the feet together, knees wide, arms wide. Breathing. Obviously, there are 753,000 different core strengthening exercises known to humankind. And this is just a little hello. Remember from some of the other sessions, core strength is directly associated with better nervous system regulation. And we spoke about in the presentation about how the nervous system can get dysregulated as we move into our elder years. So working on core strength has many benefits, not least for the nervous system as well as for more obvious strength and mobility related reasons. And then we're going to roll on to our, no, actually, let's stay on our back. And why not pop that thingamy blob that you were holding between your ankles between your knees? Because here then we can get strengthening for the back and the pelvic floor at the same time. Knees bent, hips width apart. Hands on the floor. Inhale, because of course looking after pelvic floor is also very important. Exhale, press the knees together and lift the pelvis. Just doing that movement naturally engages the pelvic floor, unless you are a reverse pelvic floor breather and mover. Inhale to come down. So just double check when you exhale and lift that you do notice a contraction of the pelvic floor rather than a downward bearing on the pelvic floor. You might find that you don't know whether it's contracting until you land and release it. So just carefully monitoring the inward and upward lift of the pelvic floor as you lift the pelvis and squeeze whatever you're holding, feeling the work of your buttocks, hamstrings, and the muscles of your lower back. And we'll do 4 more. And again, this is one of those ones where you might choose to do a few extra. Conscious use of buttocks and hamstrings. Last time, when you come up for the last one, stay up and squeezing the thingamy blob, the ball block or whatever you have, pulse up for 5 little pulses. 4 on an exhale, 3 little pulsing exhales, 2, 1, and come slowly down. Take the thingamy blob out and roll onto your belly and take a little rest. Always love wobbling the pelvis side to side, especially after I've worked the hamstrings and the buttocks. Let them go really loose as you wobble side to side. And that last exercise works more the glutes, hamstrings, and lower back muscles. So we'll just do a little one to work the upper back muscles. If you could take the thing that you had between your legs, unless it's very heavy. So it would need to be a ball, a yoga block, or for instance, I have this just folded up pashmina type thing. So it doesn't have to be heavy. It's just to have something to hold, yoga block or a bundled up sweater, anything at all. So you're holding it with quite light fingers. Forward on the floor, pubic bone presses down, fronts of the hips press down, lift through the pelvic floor, and see if you can lift your elbows and the object straight up, the elbows staying at the same height as the hands. So the elbows aren't down, I'm not lifting up like this, and also the elbows aren't up higher than the object. I'm staying level between elbows and object, pressing the pelvis into the floor. Lift as high as you can and then see, can you stroke the object down behind your head? Your forward is on the floor, and then up, lengthening the arms full length. Inhale back, elbows stay high, feel the muscles of the back, upper shoulder, shoulder blades area, making this work happen. And you can do it with something heavier, but I don't think you need to. You can do, this is the same as a pull down that you might do at the gym. Obviously you could do it with weights, but probably better to do it upright with weights or with a resistance band. Do 2 or 3 more, just really feeling the muscles of your upper back engaging. Very important for posture, very important for avoidance of vertebral compression fractures. Keep breathing. Press the lower back into the floor. You can float the legs if you like as well to work the muscles of the glutes and the hamstrings and the lower back too, but keep the pubic bones pressed down. And then totally rest. You might want to turn to rest on a cheek. Maybe your hands want to go under your head. See what you fancy. And breathe. And then see if your body would fancy a little face down dog, maybe some kind of stretch. Maybe puppy pose. Face down dog might be nice because you get the hamstrings involved, or maybe you just don't feel the energy for a face down dog, in which case you could do all fours and just stretch one leg out behind you. Anything that feels like it's lengthening the backs of the legs without having to lock the knees. Lift through the tail so you're not pulling downwards on the buttocks. We're going to go backwards. We're going to do our rest now and then our Kirtan Kriya afterwards. And for those of you who are here live, we are running over time. And if you need to go, please do. You're very welcome just to relax in Shavasana, corpse pose. Or you're welcome to do reclining cobbler. There isn't really a particular different level of benefit in relation to our aging process from either of them, except that doing reclining cobbler may help with your posture. And you don't even have to do the cobbler bit, you could just do flat legs and lie back long over the bolster. Elbows on the floor, shoulders dropping. If you do the cobbler leg position, soles of the feet together, and something under both legs to stop them feeling like they're falling. And you don't want to feel a big dramatic stretch in the inner thighs at all. And you can do corpse pose. And if you're not feeling toasty warm as I am today because I'm in a warm cabin, you might want to blanket up, put blankets on your whole body. You can even put like heavy blankets on your arms to let them feel like they're weighted down. An eye mask might be a nice idea. Always taking the time to find the little bits and bobs that make things a little more yummy. And though, as I say, for the live people, we are running late, I'd love to keep you here for 7 minutes. Let your weight surrender. And while you lie, did you notice something that you struggle with regard to the passage of time? The passage of years and the truth that we are all aging. And if you could for a moment let go of some societal perspective on aging. Might your struggle ease? Now, of course, some of the struggles are really terribly true, and it's nothing to do with society It's to do with the fact that the body does start to change in ways that make it maybe less comfortable. But is there any part of your internalized attitude that makes this time worse for you, or the idea of what's to come worse for you? There's an artist called Jonas Peterson who makes fantastical, lifelike images, and often of elderly subjects. And he had this beautiful video he made of elderly mermaids. And what he wrote about it, or his writing about what they represented, went something like this. In their early years, mermaids spend most of their time fascinated by humans. They try to understand them, mimic their ways, sing their songs, and try to look like them. Over time, they lose interest in their cousins above. They give in, let go of who they think they should become, who they always were. Their appearance slowly changes. Their limbs adapt to the sea. The shapes they once tried so hard to maintain grow into something more beautiful, a feeling of self, and finally, belonging. Throughout these presentations and practices, I've talked about allowing yourself to get fascinated by the myriad of bits of you that are functioning more or less perfectly, and to become fascinated by the extraordinary natural phenomenon that is you. And even as the years go by, we continue to be fascinating. What would it be like to meet yourself with fascination, reverence, and awe in all your life stages? To let go of the fight, to be other, and to come home to what truly is. Noticing your breath. Allowing it to lengthen. Noticing the support of what you're lying on, the floor or bolsters, etc. Supportive what you're using, blankets maybe, something over the eyes, cushions, etc. Noticing somewhere in your body that feels warm. Somewhere that feels cool. And then with a few blinks, open your eyes and just allow yourself to look around the space you're in. And a little take home would be that orientating through your eyes, opening your peripheral vision, both of those things separately or together are very good for the nervous system too. And taking in your environment. And then offer yourself a little yawn stretch or movement anywhere in the body that would like movement, and moving it in whatever way it seems to want. And knowing that there is actually, I remembered a recording of Kirtan Kriya on the website, on the resources. We're actually going to do, after all of that, just a silent meditation. And I would encourage you to use the Kirtan Kriya. And for the silent meditation, you're welcome to sit in any position you would like to sit in. And the other area of our body that we can get detached from is our hands as well. So the extremities, the feet and the hands, can become less connected, or we feel less connected to them. So we're going to do a little hand meditation to keep connected there too, because that's related to things like grip strength and dexterity, not dropping things and all of that. So we'll start with a physical meditation and then move into a still meditation. So we've worked with the hands like this before. So just beginning to stroke your hands. And if you'd like to open your eyes and watch this exploration of your own hands. So looking at them as well as feeling them. I need my glasses nowadays to see them. One of the effects of aging. And notice the qualities that you appreciate first noticing the palms, and you might notice the palms are really quite smooth and plump. And then allow your visual and touch perceptions to go to the backs of the hands, which, as we age, start to show that age quite quickly because there is less fat under the backs, under the skin and the backs of the hands. So there's less making it plump. And so we see the wrinkles and the thinness coming. And what would it be like to try and see the changing skin of the backs of your hands entirely objectively? So rather than liver spots and thinness and wrinkliness, could you shed for a moment your judgment and just look at them as if you were tracing, I don't know, a beautiful leaf you just picked up from the ground, and get interested in the landscape with no sense of what it is you're looking at, no emotional overlay, just like we do when we do our visual orientation, looking completely objectively at sets of colors and textures, light and shade. If it's a bit spooky for you, try somewhere that's less spooky. It might be less spooky to do it with the palms. And then could you do this with your eyes closed, unless you'd like to stay with them open? And map the entirety of your hands as you see fit in any way that you like. And then when you feel ready, let your hands rest. They might want to rest one on top of the other, or they might want to separate and rest on your legs. And we'll sit for 4 minutes in silence, noticing the sensations of your hands. And could you think of a bit of your body that you judge for its, as they might say in the ad, telltale signs of aging? Maybe it's the wrinkles of your cleavage or the softness of your belly or the wrinkles under your eyes or the little jowly bits. And could you bring your hands to somewhere that maybe sometimes you look at and go, oh God. And if those bits of you were someone you love, how might you see them? What compassion and patience might you bestow on them? And is it possible, just even for a moment, to think of how it really doesn't matter? The great scheme of things, the baggy eyes, the wrinkly bits and bobs, the softness, the roundness. It doesn't matter. For some of us, they may even remind us of loved ones that we have seen as old and maybe now they're gone, and this softening reminds us and brings us home to those people. Or what is it? Is there something for you that you could for a moment shift gear towards, to change your habitual attitude? Perhaps developing an ability to embrace our softening, our shape shifting, and to move towards wonderment at getting to be alive. Let me just finish this session with 3 hums, another way to regulate the nervous system. Long breath in. You're very welcome to lie down again. You're very welcome to get on with your day. You're welcome to go and do the Kirtan Kriya. Whatever you need. May you be well. May you be free from harm. May you progress where possible. May you find ways to sit at ease with the rest. Om Shanti. Namaste. Thank you very much.